What's up, everybody? I'm Dave, and this is Gen X Unchained. I'm opening the show with just me right now, just to start off, because I want everybody to know what this show's about, who we are, and why I started the podcast. So, for the first minute, maybe three, I'm going to tell you about myself. I started the podcast about a year ago, about around the time where my wife became disabled. Figured everybody else is making money. Why can't I make a little bit of money, right? But it was also because when I'm gone and leave this earth and my grandchildren are left behind and they want to see my face and hear my voice, they could go to the YouTube or Rumble or Spotify and hear my voice and see my face. Um, so those are the two reasons why I started the podcast. I've had a lot of help between then and now. We've had good shows, bad shows. Um, Not really successful, but I have a good support system now. The people that are out there that know who they are, thank you very much for helping me and guiding me and continuously being there to help me get this channel to grow. So thank you. Um, you know who you are. This show is about everything and anything. We're going to talk about marijuana tonight. Federally legal. Are we going to see it? Should it ever been uh, illegal? We'll get into that. Plus a new update from the Dales report, and we're going to talk about the idiocracy in Texas about marijuana. There's some things I like to see change, but there's other things I think they need to just leave it alone. But we'll get into all that. We're going to be talking about aliens. That's going to be next Monday. Aliens. Okay. I may be solo on that one. I may not be. I may have a guest. I may not have a guest. We will find out. But aliens next week, next Monday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to bring in my co host. His name's Mocha the Bull. He's been with me every step of the way. And I didn't announce this to anybody because this was last second, spur of the moment. Around noon today, I got a phone call from a friend of mine to check in and see how we were doing, see how I was doing, how my wife's doing. Uh, so he also was one of my other co hosts at one time when we were Gen X and beyond. He is a guest tonight and going to be joining us. So it's going to be a great show. Get pumped, get excited, bring the pain. Let's get into this. My co host, the one, the only, the infamous, no shin having ass dude, Mokin the Bull. What's up,
Uh,
Mokin?
why you gotta introduce me like a no shit having my?
Look,
Come
because
on
it's
now,
funny, dude. Look,
it's
dude.
only my knee. It's only
Bro,
one knee that makes me off balance
listen,
and
Cotton Hill, there's no
turn
shame
into a.
going to shopping at Kids R Us or Osh Gosh but Gosh because that's the only place you get clothes.
Yes, y'all. I'm a shorter guy. I'm only 5'9". Uh, it it happens, you
Listen,
know.
Your legs are
sure.
cockeyed.
There is only the
What
lonely.
up?
What's up, bud?
Not much. What's
Welcome
So,
going
back.
on with your cockeyed legs?
right, let's see
No,
here.
it's not cockeyed. It's
Oh,
just I have a cadaver ACL in my knee and I can't kneel down on it, so I can't, go down and do something at floor level on my bad knee.
okay.
Um,
I thought you
but
got injured or something recently.
oh, I no, not recently.
Dave's
No,
never mentioned it before.
Never
no,
mentioned.
not recently. It's been a while.
Okay, well, we're getting into marijuana and federally legalization. Should it ever been legal? Should have the government ever stepped in with? Yes or no? Maybe so. Who knows, right?
Right.
So before we get into all that, let's check in with the Dale's report. I got something I need to share.
Should it have ever been illegal, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's our First Amendment again?
The First Amendment is the freedom of speech.
Okay. No, the First Amendment.
No,
Our first right.
there's more
First
than
Bill of
just
Rights.
freedom of speech on there.
Our First Amendment is not just freedom of speech.
I know.
It is a clusterfuck of amendments
Okay.
that are the staple.
All right. And where you getting at it with this? Where you going?
Well, come on. Keep giving me First Amendment rights. What are the First Amendment rights?
Dude, really? Bro, we're going to go with this?
Well, we can when we get into the whether it should have ever been illegal to begin with. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Well, all right. Well, look. All right. So let's get into this. Let's do this quick little show. I got a little clip to show you. We're going to see what's going on. All right.
All right.
Let me go down the line.
Let's see this clip.
Okay. This is going to be
this ain't going to work very well.
Why?
Whoa.
Whoa.
What weird screen is that?
I have no clue. Technical difficulties. What's up, Ray?
What's up, Ray?
The 5 pillars. Yes, the 5 pillars.
I love the motos as well.
Yes.
Currently got a Samsung, sadly.
That's what I thought. There was more than one or two. I know that much. I mean, I'm just a stupid millennial, you know. It happens.
That's right.
Okay, freedom of assembly and freedom of rights. Okay.
You grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
I was born in the 80s, not growing up in the 80s. But
freedom of assembly, freedom of rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of basically a culture. Because if you're secular and you don't have a religion, then your culture is your religion, because that's what your religion is the belief system that sets your way of life. Everybody agree with that definition?
Yeah.
Right. So freedom of religion is in there, as well as freedom of speech, freedom of culture. So if my culture is a farmer and I want to grow the best crop that I can, that's most profitable and best for the country, like hemp was, because hemp was the most grown crop in the country prior to the Marijuana Tax Act. Right. Keep and bear arms. Right. That's the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is there, so if you try to trample the first.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
back
to the freedom of culture, freedom of religion.
Okay.
The Bible says in Genesis, God giveth every seed bearing and plant. I could literally quote you go to the scripture and read it. The plants are ours. They're God given. Just like there are God-given rights. So the very first chapter of the fucking Bible tell you that the plants were given by God. So who is the government to say, "Oh, that plant you can't grow that plant"?
He's just going down the line, Ray.
Ray got them all memorized. That's my kind of man there, man. Fuck yeah, Ray.
Listen, look at that. Rock on.
Right.
But,
I love the Constitution. First favorite book is the Bible. Second is the Constitution.
So you're saying the government should have never stuck their nose in someone they didn't belong to.
Right. I'm saying farmers and religious people and just people who love the Constitution and our freedoms should have stood up and said, "You can't do that, dude."
I mean, I agree.
Do you believe
I don't think
it should be changed?
Do what?
Do you think some of the packages and some of the names on the packages should have been changed because they supposedly appeal to children? Because that's what they did with Joe Camel from Camel Cigarettes.
Exactly. That's what they did.
Yeah, but that all came out at the advertising on cigarettes issues all came out after they proved that it's a carcinogen that causes cancer. So, like,
Yeah,
Well,
that was what, in the late 80s, early 90s?
hold on.
I mean,
Now,
are you going to are we going to tell parents how much sugar they can give their children or caffeine? Because those are
okay,
actual drugs, unhealthy drugs that kill
okay,
people.
yeah, but
Don't
listen,
we already?
I was growing up in a household where my parents sat there and had a case of beer in the fridge and said, "That's not soda. That's adult alcohol drink. You're not allowed to have it."
Right.
And if I even touched it, unless I was grabbing another beer for my grandfather or my father,
My dad, mom, yep.
you know what I'm saying? I
Ah,
wasn't
see,
allowed to touch it.
my dad was smart. See, what he did is he found that time where I was the pickiest little shit kid in the world, that we all go through that little fucking phase, and he put a can of beer in my hand and said, "Here, take a swig of this." And, you know, when you taste beer for the first time, when you're that picky little child, you spit that shit out and you don't ever fucking drink it again. So it's
All I'm
like,
saying is this: my parents were
Well, I mean,
responsible enough to sit there and tell me not to touch that shit. So why are
but,
parents today not responsible for their marijuana, their gummies, their candies, their flour, their wax,
but
their
that
why are they
that don't
not responsible?
hey, we're
but that don't work for all kids. That
right.
don't work for all of us
No, you know what
because
works for all of
I
us?
mean, I sat there and was getting my mom, my dad, and their friends, their beers. I was the cooler diver. I got into. They wanted them from the bottom. I had to get them from the bottom.
Hey,
They
speaking of
Yes,
the
didn't like it
Second
from
yes.
the
Amendment,
Listen, listen.
speaking of the Second Amendment, you know, 40% of Americans have guns in their households,
Yeah.
right? So why aren't children getting the guns on a regular basis and shooting people? I mean, it does happen on random,
It
rare
does
occasions.
happen.
But
Okay. So,
what's the main cause of that not happening?
well,
Responsible
The main
parents and
cause
responsible
is
gun ownership, right?
hold on. Before we get into all that, I just want to let everybody know I'm the host of the show. My name is Dave. Moking the Bowl in the middle is my co-host, and tonight's guest on the bottom is Dan. Only the lonely. He is a friend of mine, been a friend of mine for 20 plus years, right along with Moking the Bowl. We know each other in real life.
Sometimes we play the same video games.
Sometimes we just, do a podcast, but we're here. Retired rider, welcome. Ray's Moto
what's up,
Life, again,
retired.
welcome. Um,
So, and I'm an
glad to
electrical
see you guys
engineer.
here.
Ray.
But yeah,
Harley, you ride over glide, nice.
yeah, he's got a great podcast. He is,
We'll have to check that out.
yeah, I
Throw that link up.
yeah, I will here in
Nice.
a little bit.
But
Or
the
if you
Second
guys want to throw
Amendment,
your links up in the chat, you guys could throw your links up in the chat. I will show them to everybody. That would help me out.
Shoot, we'll
Other
pin
than
them to the top too.
yeah,
right,
I
but
mean,
Dave,
I got them. What?
back to your point on your question about responsible parents. Like,
Right?
guns are in 40% of the households. What's the
Yeah,
first step of keeping children from shooting each other with your gun?
having
Response,
responsible parents that know
right.
how to keep their guns put up.
And what's the first step in having that household with children in it and having guns? Gun
Teaching
training,
children.
teaching,
Yeah,
education. So, like,
education.
going right back to your question
That's
about
what
the
I'm
gummies
saying.
and all that stuff, a good parent's going to educate their kids, on responsible use of marijuana if they smoke marijuana. So, and a shitty
So,
parent is not. They're
so
going to leave
you're
their
saying
gummies
a
on the
parent
table.
shouldn't be held responsible because that parent left their bowl out or their wax out or their gummies out or their chocolates. That's
I don't know. I
infused.
live in a state where kids are allowed to smoke if they have a medical condition, so I don't know what to,
Well, yeah,
and the whole
you live,
reason it started getting legalized to begin with is because Charlotte and had to move to Colorado just so her parents could grow the weed that would help her get over her epilepsy. So, like, children partaking in marijuana is not. I'm asking you, why do you think the
I'm,
government
I'm
has a
talking
right to
about the
regulate
kid.
what I do with my children? Like, if I have a 16-year-old who has a hard time falling asleep and I got some indica, what's wrong with her having a glass of tea?
I have to agree with him.
If it's prescribed, if
Yeah,
it's something
okay.
that
Well,
you
yeah,
No,
that's under this
that,
regulatory bullshit. But in the scheme of things, let's pretend we're making it up right now. We're writing the laws. What
okay,
makes you think you get to tell me what I can give my kids for food? You don't get to dictate how much sugar I fatten them up with. You don't get to dictate how much caffeine I get them ADD with. You don't get to dictate how much red dye I give them. What makes you think you can dictate how much THC or CBD or CBG or CBN or CBA I can give my child? Like,
hey,
they're
I'm
non-volatile,
not saying,
non-harmful substances that our
hold on.
bodies have immune a system, a cannabinoid system that's specifically for these things.
Okay, well,
And
I'm not saying medical condition wise, but to be a parent, you have responsibility to your children,
mhm,
to
especially
educate.
children.
to educate
Listen,
them,
yes, to
your
educate them.
responsibility is to
Like,
educate them.
yeah,
You're not and prepare them for the outside life
See, most
of
kids,
your home. Not You're not there to control them per se. You're there to educate them, to
right?
prepare them to go out into the world.
okay. Well,
Were you guys
all I'm saying
stoners
is this.
growing up?
All I'm saying is this right here.
Yeah,
Okay, this and
There you
this
are.
alone. This is all I'm saying. Okay, a child should not be grabbing a bag of gummies and taking it to school
No.
and sharing it with the other students, which has happened not once, not twice, not three times, but 5 or more. It's me and Moken went over this a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Right. Well, gummies
now,
are
so
highly
and
dosed.
again, and again, I think I can't talk and read at the same time. I don't think that you being a certain age, okay, yeah, I get it. Your mind develops at different ages and whatnot, girls and females and males, but
hmm
I don't think why is it regulated? Why? Like
This
It
there
should be
is
up
no
to the
reason
parents.
why
And
it
gummies,
should have been
right,
regulated to begin with.
right.
oh, okay. Well, I'm just gonna say this right here. Okay, Texas is throwing a big fit right now, trying to push that bill SB3 to outlaw hemp, hemp derived products, CBD,
Right. All bullshit.
basically everything.
Because the
They
gas
want
stations are selling the Delta 9 or whatever and making a boatload because it's technically legal. It doesn't have the THC by the definition of the schedule on there.
exactly.
And Ray's Moto Life, really, honestly, really,
Yeah, he probably
really,
has. He
I
probably
I
has.
I want to try them. I
Right?
really do
Dude,
because I have yet till this day. I My first hit
Hold
of a
on,
bomb was at 8 years old.
hold on.
Till
The
this
question I
day,
have,
I
the
cannot
question I
find
have,
any edibles to give me any kind of change.
well,
the
that's
okay,
in the
hold on.
science.
Now, I got a question about that. Was it a first time user, a second time user? Because I could see that.
What? What are
I've
we
been
talking about here? We
smoking
talking about the
weed.
gummies putting you in the chair?
Yeah, I've been okay.
No,
I
I have
have
a
been
pretty good
smoking weed
tolerance, and
since
I've
I
had
was
gummies put me in
14
the
years.
chair too.
I've been smoking weed since I was 14 years old. I'm fucking 48 now. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't mean to drop the F-bomb and stuff like that, but it's going to happen. Protect your ears, your virgin ears. Protect them all. But
Why would you have virgins
Hear-
listening to you?
hear no evil.
Kids, turn this
no
shit off. This is not a kid show. This is
Anyway.
not a kid show.
I have 3 gummies. This happened to me about 4 months ago. We got some new gummies in the place where I work. And I was like, oh, what are these? And my boss was like, they're 200 milligrams of gummy. And they're like those orange slices, right? But these were green and they were fucking nasty. I ate 3 of them. And about an hour and a half later, I'm wanting to call my boss so I could go home.
Mhm.
Okay. It depends on your chemistry. It depends on your body chemistry.
Well, yeah, and the reason for that is
Everybody's
because it's not
body-
the THC that matters; it's your liver.
Right. And I'm not
So,
promoting it either, just
when
so
you-
everybody knows I'm not promoting
Right.
it either. We're just talking about it, experiences. That's
so when you
just the way it
smoke,
is.
the THC goes into your lungs and it's absorbed into your bloodstream through your lungs. It gives you a direct effect. When you eat,
Right.
it goes in through your digestive system and it metabolizes in your liver and kidneys. And depending on how it metabolizes, definitely metabolizes a completely different chemical than THC. So it's a lot more knock you
Damn.
out kind, but it's a completely different chemical. It's not THC at that moment.
And Ray, honestly, that's not a bad thing. If you
So
had to stop at 24 for like a job, hey, I ain't knocking you. But
right, I quit when I
I'm
was 20
disabled.
because I had children. So when my daughter was born, I quit. I quit for 10 years. The first 10 years of her life, she didn't know I was even sympathetic to this. But 10 years, then I
Yeah,
started
and
smoking again because I didn't see a reason why not.
there's these.
I haven't quit since I was 18.
Dude, if I could time travel, I would never quit. So
I don't know. I was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 20, and that's when I really started heavily smoking. It was right after that, and
I'd quit cigarettes. I need to quit cigarettes. And that's the thing. I'll end up with emphysema before I ever have a negative from marijuana. That negative wasn't introduced by the government, making it illegal to begin with.
Well,
yeah.
and
There's not a
hey.
negative to marijuana that doesn't start with the government making it illegal.
So here's the problem. This is what goes on. So for some reason, this senator, this congressman, whatever, down in Texas, sits there and says this guy ate
let's
some.
listen to him.
Hold on, ate some gummy rings, and walked in front of a train.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he wants to outlaw all that. And he says the packaging was to attract kids.
Well, sure. Do that in
and
consumer.
So
Do that with consumer laws. But when it comes to whether I can grow, smoke, and cook with weed, that's my business. If I go to sell it to somebody else, then yeah, you can regulate that.
Regulate how it's packaged.
Right. Well, they can do that with cigarettes.
That's my argument.
We can regulate everything.
Here's another thing too.
Yep, the cigarettes will definitely get you.
Yeah, and here's another thing too, right? Remember in the 80s, I'm a Gen X kid, born in 77. Let's think about it. I was watching commercials for Marlboro, Newport, Benson Hedges Menthol, Cools, seeing commercials for that stuff. A lot of commercials for beer. And nowadays, you see no commercials for cigarettes. You see commercials to help with quit lines, to help quit smoking, vaping. You know what I'm saying? But you don't see the commercials anymore.
And
Think
still,
about
you've seen more money put in the lobbying to keep marijuana illegal than you have lobbying to make tobacco illegal.
Imagine
Why
this.
is that? More people die of lung cancer and cancer in general than the zero that have died from marijuana. So why is so much money going into keeping
Well,
marijuana
no,
illegal
you
and,
can't say that no more
maintaining
because they have it
stigmas?
logged. They have it logged. The train death was due to marijuana.
Okay, no, the train death was due to somebody walking out in front of a train. The train killed the person. The marijuana did not.
They are
And what
telling
other
you
drugs?
they
What other drugs were involved,
Semantics.
possibly? Because that's the
but,
thing. It wasn't.
but they are
Where's the
saying
toxicology report? What's this man's name?
that this guy did this because of the edibles, and therefore it is due to marijuana.
Yeah.
Or actually, not even marijuana, hemp.
Right. That would make. Yeah, it would kill the medical. If they
Right.
made tobacco illegal, it would destroy my entire industry, the medical industry. I wouldn't have a job because they wouldn't need scanners anymore.
Right. So, uh, basically, I think when it comes to hemp, because hemp is uh, the basic plant, right? Hemp is the plant that doesn't have enough THC count in there to get you high, right?
Right.
Right.
Hemp is also used, and this is why I think they need to leave hemp alone. If you want to outlaw it in certain states across the border because of the damn cartel, you're you're putting yourselves in a deeper hole and out and away from the public, and you're getting out
And
of. It's the same as alcohol. The prohibition of alcohol is the way I'm looking at it. And here's another thing you got to
yeah,
remember too: is hemp is used to make clothing, shoes, rope,
Keep
um,
going. Keep going.
hemp create 3D printed houses, uh,
Keep
um,
going. Fuel.
medical,
Fuel.
uh, fuel, biofuel,
Glue.
that the glue, but
Epoxy. Everything
yeah,
petroleum makes, you can make out of hemp oil.
exactly. So there's many uses for hemp. Okay.
Everything, including our drugs. Our drugs are petroleum based, right?
we got
You're
we got petroleum in our food.
right.
I'm gonna make a statement. You tell me what it's wrote on. We, the people of the United States of America. What
Uh,
was that wrote on?
It was written on hemp, is what it was written on.
yeah, it was written on hemp.
The reason
George
why they
Washington
outlawed
planted
hemp.
a lot of hemp. Henry Ford made a hemp fiber car that ran on hemp biodiesel, got 40 miles to a gallon, and the farmers, you could fill up at your local farm.
The sails used on Christopher Columbus's ship were hemp.
Dude, yeah, you guys are talking my butter there. Like, that's like, I could write a book on the hempspiracy. Like, we would be living in a different reality right now if they would have never made hemp illegal, if they'd never taxed the farmers so much that the farmers gave up planting it and just cleared the way to make marijuana illegal as well. It all started with hemp.
Well, I just seen something today.
DuPont, Mead, Monsanto, the Rockefellers. There's not a big name company in the World Economic Forum that would be even a player compared to the common American farmer if they'd never made hemp illegal. And they knew it when they did it, which is why they lobbied a shit ton of money. When they made the Fed, they didn't just plan to take away our standard of money, they planned to take away our livelihoods, our ability to rise up in the system through our own production means. And
Okay,
and the farmers sat down, sadly, and I don't know if there was any protest for the Marijuana Tax Act. Every farmer grew hemp,
all
almost
right.
every.
So we know the Amish right? The Amish are all over the U.S., right?
Right.
Like all over.
Right. Primarily in Ohio and Pennsylvania, but yeah, they spread out.
Okay, but they have other
Most of them speak
places all
Pennsylvania
around
Dutch.
the U.S.
Right.
What if they started growing and cultivating and making sales on marijuana?
Who?
They wouldn't.
Amish.
They wouldn't. It's against their belief system. They would.
Dude, there's
Selling
uninterested-
marijuana for recreational purposes is against their religious beliefs.
Wrong.
But they would grow hemp. They would
What?
grow hemp.
If I told you, I know you live out there in around Amish country,
Yep.
Dan. So, what if I told you you're wrong?
What?
Because
Oh,
there's Amish that do grow weed.
There's different
secretively.
cults. Yeah, there's different cults of
You know?
Amish, man. That's something I've come to find out recently, because there's one Amish guy that had a near-death experience about 10, 15 years ago, and in it, his Messiah came, and he never said he looked like Christ or anything like that, but he said there was a light-bodied figure, and he's like, dude, you're still getting it all wrong. Like, look at all these people you persecuted throughout your life because they didn't believe what you believe. And look at how hard you've been on your children when you've tried to instill your religion into them. And look how little of my love you showed my brothers. And
Okay.
he came back and he changed. He took half the Amish in Pennsylvania and fractured them into a new, more New Testament Amish group.
So would that be the what do they call them? The where they use cars and actually have electricity?
No, those are Mennonites.
Mennonites. Is that what the other community would be?
I don't know. The Mennonites are all over the place, and I know their history a lot less.
But retired riders?
Yep.
They are.
So the Mennonites and the Amish are two groups that are extremely devout Christians, to the point where our electricity is a sorcery. Amish take it to the point where it is a sorcery. You can't have electricity. Mennonites bend the rules on that. They'll use machinery. They'll open stores, run businesses, but they're still super devout Christians. They take every step with the Bible in their brain.
Here. So, look. Getting back to marijuana,
Right.
Mary Jane, marijuana.
You gotta
Okay.
hook me up with this Amish guy you're talking about that grows marijuana, though. I
Uh,
want to meet him.
YouTube.
yeah.
I'll be right back.
YouTube. But yeah, going back to marijuana, I think the packaging does need changed if it is attracting kids, just like cigarettes, just like alcohol.
But I mean, what gives you the right to again tell me how to regulate myself?
Not
I'm not
yourself.
telling you.
It's
I'm not
commerce.
telling you how
Commerce.
to
I
regulate.
agree. You should be able to regulate commerce. It's when you come to your individual rights on your own properties where I have a problem.
Right. And my thing is this is what I'm trying to say, Moken. I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. I don't care.
Wait, let's.
Hold on. No, let me finish.
Yep.
Okay. I don't care about what you do in the privacy of your own home. That's none of my damn business, as much as it's none of your business or your neighbor's business or anyone else's business of what you're doing inside of the privacy of your own home.
Exactly.
Right, but let's loop
You
this
know?
together for a second here.
But
Because
hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish
Okay.
real quick. All right.
I want to change.
I think the packaging needs to be changed to where it doesn't and not attract the thoughts of young kids say, "Oh wow, that's a pack of gummies. I'm going to take them to school and
I
share them with the class." Okay, I
Right.
believe that yes, you should change the name. Stop using look because this is the
See,
reason why I'm saying I have disposable THCA vapes that I sell at my job. Okay, and the names
excuse me.
of some of these
Bubblicious,
same as the name of candy that
Teen
we pick
Dream.
up inside of a gas station. for kids, Okay, like
Skittles.
Bubblicious. Okay, Blow Pop,
Right.
Gummy
So here's
Worm, White Chocolate, Blue Raz. Hello.
right. So I agree with you, except for here's the thing: is how far do you think that should go when you're voting that as a regulation? Do you think that you, as an individual American, should have the opportunity and the right to tell your town that's how it has to be, your county, or your state, or your whole fucking country? Because I think myself, I think that should be a local ordinance if you want to put packaging on your. Because you remember in the 1800s, the general store was where you bought all your shit. So, and all the packaging was plain, right?
I have no clue.
Right. So I'm just saying, but like, Moken, imagine if you wanted to make a product and sell it to an Amish person. All
Okay.
right. Now, Amos Miller says he'll buy your product off of you and put it in his store, but only if your packaging is in accordance with his beliefs for the products that he currently sells. Would you
Okay.
have a problem packaging your shit for Amos in a manner that Amos would like to buy it if you wanted to sell it to Amos? Right?
Would I package a special
Right.
amount
Right.
of packaging just for him? Yes.
Right. Okay. So there's your link up between the two of them, because
Okay, so I
I
understand what
agree
you're
it
asking.
should be a regulation based on commerce, but I think it should be like on a county level.
I think
And
it should be on a federal.
yeah, I don't think
I,
And the reason
honestly,
why I think it should be on a federal is because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And, you know, take a horse to water, you can't make it drink.
I want
right.
the federal focused
So
on my constitution and nothing
I
else.
understand that,
Right?
and I do
My
too. But
my
here's the
governor can
thing.
worry about whether or not the packaging is
Put it in
appropriate for
the
children.
hands of the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah.
Put it in the
Who
hands
has
of the FDA.
who has the ultimate control of the FDA?
Well, bottom line to be the president, right?
It's
Or is
I
that,
believe it's
or am
all
I wrong?
over. I believe there's state and federal levels, because I believe it was like part of the FDA and the state health that went after Amos Miller over in Lancaster last year
That
and
was
shut down his
state
farm
health.
because he was selling raw milk, which is colostrum from raw milk is one of the most healthiest things a human being can ingest, but yet they seem to think that he was not within his rights. So that's why I don't want the federal government in charge of my food supply at all. Like,
Well,
if I want local food, I want local produce, I want local cows. I don't want there to be cows shipped in from Mexico or Japan.
Okay, who's in charge of Big Pharma?
Pharma
big
would
Who
pharma,
die.
owns Big
the
Pharma?
Pharma would.
pharmaceuticals. What's
I
the
would
three
predict
biggest?
pharma would
What's the
die in a
three
world
big-
where hemp was legal.
What's the largest pharmaceutical company in America? Do you know that?
BlackRock. Yeah,
Wouldn't it be?
BlackRock.
Who owns what?
BlackRock.
I would say Pfizer.
Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, Moderna,
Who's owned primarily
Okay.
by BlackRock.
right?
Right, you're 90% chance of getting it right if you just always say BlackRock, because it's like they got a controlling share of Pfizer and
And
all
I
these
and
other
I think
companies.
you're right. I think you're
But
right.
but who ain't the federal government constantly like overseeing them?
The money
money
people, the
people.
Rockefeller. I'm sad.
Yeah.
See,
Yes, the Rockefellers. You know,
yeah.
I've had this conversation before. A few weeks ago, I was on Unchained Down the Rabbit Hole. Okay, boom! Look who made an appearance. Right.
Hey,
Hey,
The
what's
money
up?
people, yes.
Yep. But
Everybody's chiming in. The money
what I'm
people.
saying, yes, what I'm saying is this right here. BlackRock, Vanguard, Oracle,
State
all of
Street.
them. State Street, all of them.
Controlling share of 90% of the businesses in the country that are publicly traded.
But when it comes to the packaging, I think that needs to be a law in every state that's equal.
See, so we all have slightly differing opinions. I agree they should regulate commerce but
Local
I don't
level.
think it should be at a county or state level.
I think it needs to be
I
federal
think it
because
needs
I
to be
think
federal.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
put
I don't
a
like giving the
skull-
federal government rights outside of rights
It
how
needs
they
to be
like.
stripped
Federal government's
off.
job to protect my constitution. The state is supposed to make up my laws.
Right, but ain't it the federal government that has it illegal anyway?
Yeah, it's illegal anyway on a federal level.
Right, it was part of the
But
root
what I'm saying,
problem there.
but what I'm saying is this right here. I'm not trying to say change the packaging to where it has a pot leaf shaped skull with two pot bone crossbones, you know, and call it not for children, whatever, you know. And I'm not saying make it black and white and put a skull and crossbone on it like a pirate ship. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the show. And just listen. If you guys don't know who we are, I'm going to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Dave. That's Smoking the Bull, and that's our guest, Only the Lonely. And this is Gen X Unchained. All right. Like I was saying, I'm not saying turn it black and white, put a skull and crossbones on it. And I'm not saying to try to control as far as, you know, what you do inside of your house. What you do inside of your house is basically your own business. I'm not saying that, and I'm not trying to get involved because I really tell you the truth. I don't care what none of y'all do inside of your house. That's y'all's business. I have no place to put my nose there, and neither should the government.
Right.
Okay. But when it comes to the packaging and some of the names that they use on those products, they need to change.
I mean, honestly, how are they getting by with it with copyright?
Hey, we're up to 57 subs, guys. Thanks for the update, Ray. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is great. That is love. Look at that.
Sick bastard. I'm the first to hate Big Farm. Gov makes them jump through hoops and pay for everything, all the tests and permits, everything. That's how they justify their crazy prices.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good point. And what big pharmacy product don't they have to jump through those hoops with?
Hey, thank you, Sick.
Hey,
Thanks, Sick bastard.
Thank you. Dave.
Yeah.
What big pharma products don't have to go through all the government loopholes and testing and
I can tell you one.
Government controls by the FDA?
I can tell you one.
It's a whole one in general. It's a whole category of big pharma.
I can tell you one vaccine that didn't have to do all that.
Yeah, all of them. None of them had to do that. No vaccine. Since the 50s, they haven't had a safety test or prove efficacy of vaccine.
Because we haven't made none since the...
Hey, Ray, you're completely right on that, bro. You're completely right on that. Did you see that? What Ray said, just like cupcakes and snacks in a box, they put the animals and cartoon characters so kids will beg their parents to buy them. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's no different than You know,
See, I don't have a big dog in the battle, because if we're talking about a world where it's legal, you're talking about a world where I produce my own marijuana, I ingest my own made marijuana, and I don't really care about packaging. So,
and
if you want
see,
to put the skull and crossbones on there, go for it, because the shit in my house is going to be in a jar because I've
and
harvested it.
and don't we have like something saying, you know, on the packaging that it's not for kids on cigarettes? Don't
it
we
says
have
on
it?
packages. Yes, it says on back of the packages 21 plus.
Right.
And don't it say
Here it
on?
is. Smoking.
Age restriction would be nice and easy for a
Yeah.
standard.
But here we go again. This is the same thing I lose my fucking mind with. Okay? I severely lose my fucking mind with everybody who fucking says some shit and don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And age restriction, yes, but the way I'm looking at it is like this: if I can't have a beer till I'm 21, if I can't have a cigarette till I'm 21, what gives anybody the right to tell me no? If I'm 18, sign up for the military, go to war, and come home before I turn 21 and still can't have a beer. So if you're going to age limit it, we might as well go ahead and knock it down for everything and go from military 21 plus alcohol, cigarettes. We should not be taking kids fresh out of high school, putting them in war, and getting them killed, and they can't come back here and smoke a joint until they're 21.
Right.
Because Marines, Army, Navy, National Guard, Airmen come back with PTSD, and they need them products. But we need to regulate the picture. The way that it's packaged, Moken, it should not be rainbows and say Skittles, but spelled different with the Z at the end. It should not be called Runts. Runts is a candy. Do you get what I'm saying?
Runts with an S, not a Z.
No, it has Runts with the Z. Runtz. But Runts, the candy, is spelled Runts.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? We need to change the name. Change the way the packaging looks.
Go for it.
Hey, go ahead and put your website up in there. We'll pin it to the top.
But yes, I mean,
So as long as you're talking about commerce, you can do whatever you want. I'll be making my own. I don't care. I'm an old man, so I don't need to worry about what kids, what age I'm allowed to grow weed, smoke weed, or anything like that. Read that, Dave. I can't read
it says,
it. Oh, it's too small.
Ray's Moto Life says, I understand what you're saying, but I believe this country, people would love this country and respect it more if it was a mandatory to serve at least 1 year when they turn 18 in the military.
Right.
Now,
so
I will agree. Hey, hold on. I will agree with that opinion as long as the 1 year is not combat at all. Training.
Well, you know why? How many Amish have joined the military?
Frogzilla.
How many Amish are in the military?
I have no clue, bro, but I bet you there's more
Jehovah's Witnesses.
None.
I know of one Jehovah's Witness that was in the military, and he was a fucking hero. But he didn't carry a gun. There's a movie about him. He just ran around. He ended up being a medic, and he ended up saving more people in World War II than any other medic that survived.
Yes,
but now
a lot of other countries, yeah, people have automatically serve in their military. They respect their country more. Yes, and I agree. I do agree with that. One is China, Korea, or some North Korea, or some, and other places.
But then if you're going to do that,
Mhm.
then at that age, you're allowed to do whatever. Like, you're an adult then. Done.
But what
That's what I'm saying.
where I'm getting
If
at
we
is,
have an age limit
Right?
on the military, like, you got to join right then. You know, once you turn that age, you have to serve at least a year. Okay, then they're able to drink, they're able to smoke, they're able to do whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
the UK does it. Okay.
Hey Ray, how does the UK handle religion? Because they have a freedom of religion there. So what do they do about the religion? Do they get an exemption or do they get a job as a medic? Let me know if you know. Drop it down in there.
Yeah. Drop anything down in the
I'm
comments.
interested. So I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. I grew up being drug into the congregation. It's just a Christian church that has a Bible that is essentially the same as the King James Bible. I know I've compared them. It has the word Jehovah in there quite a bit, which is the Hebrew name of the All God. Yeah, they don't do anything like that. They don't smoke. They actually shun their members, kick their members out for smoking marijuana and dumb shit like that, which is counter to what they teach you as far as what Christ said. But whatever, uh, you know,
Right?
I'm a big stoner Christ here. Like yeah, God gave me the plants, man. It's that recipe in Exodus. There's an anointing oil. It has marijuana in it. They've proven it. Marijuana's good.
But all I'm
Yeah.
saying is we
And,
need to
and,
regulate the
and
You're going back to
not
what?
even just praying,
Well,
not even just praying for silent
right.
praying.
So, Dave, you're talking about Paul Harvey before, were you
Harvey.
not? Huh?
What do you mean about Paul Harvey?
If I were the devil, right? Is it Paul Harvey? The
Like
I word. If I were the
19,
devil.
if I were the devil.
Yeah. Who
Yes.
did that?
I were the devil. I want to say that was Paul Harvey.
Okay.
Back in
So,
19, I want to say 27.
so what were the three
And
ways?
that's probably fallen.
What were the three ways to take over?
I don't know, man. I'd have to
Control
go
what?
back.
Control religion, the
Media,
media, the religion.
religion, and I can't remember. I can't remember, bro. It's been a minute since I watched it.
But you only need that religion one to prove my point. This country is supposedly a Christian country founded on Christian morals, and they use the Christian church to demonize marijuana, a plant God gave us.
Thank you, Unchained.
So it leads right into what you were talking about. If I were the devil, I would use religion to make people hate God.
What about Paul Harvey?
Paul
Paul
Harvey
Harvey.
was the guy who wrote "If I Were the Devil," and
Oh,
it's
right.
about 3 ways. It's on YouTube. You could go look it up. Research Moken. I suggest you do because it'll blow your mind.
Right.
Okay. It
Oh,
will
it's
blow.
a short. There's a short speech. We could play it right now if you want. It's not
Nah.
that. It's not that long.
Nah.
It's
we
not
haven't figured
copyrighted
that
either.
out yet.
Nah.
But
I got to figure out how to share stuff in the vertical view because I haven't figured that out yet.
it would
So
just
before we
pop
get
up
into that,
another
that's just
screen.
something I got to teach myself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, we'll move on. Christian military members in the UK are generally allowed to practice their faith within the bounds of operational requirements and health and safety conditions.
Okay.
But yet
Yeah.
they're getting arrested for
For that,
silently praying on the side of the road.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ray. That was
Cool.
awesome, buddy.
So they'd be medics.
Yeah. So, any way you look at it, there's medical use for marijuana. There's general purpose use. I could see hemp taking out the logging industry right along because for this reason, it takes $500,000 to buy, and I know that's a lot of money, 1 3D print machine to use hempcrete to make a house that won't burn down. To build a house that you can live in for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
How much?
So
it's 500,000 to buy the machine. And if you were to buy this machine, I mean, I could only dream of something like that. I'm 48 years old. I think I'm pretty much past my prime to step into that large scale of a business. Would I love to have something like that and start a business and build? Yes, I would, because I think you can make a lot of money at it.
And I'd be off.
right now you're saying you do want a farm.
disability.
Now you do want a farm. You want a hemp farm now is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying 500K is how much it cost. But to have one of these companies to come in and build you a 3D printed hempcrete house, hempcrete, that is, it won't burn down. The only thing that's going to burn down is if you have wood inside of your house that you use for like your roof, your different levels of flooring. You know what I'm saying? But if it's multi-level, but the house itself ain't going to burn down. You get in, you clean it, you paint it, you rebuild the wood, and you move on.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
well,
think
if
about
it's a
that.
single story, you wouldn't have much wood at all.
No,
And
you could build
and
two
the
stories.
timber frames. If you do cabin style with timber frames, that's a nice thing about hempcrete is it's self-supporting in itself. So literally, you can have a 40-foot wall, and it will support itself. And as long as you have a truss frame that will support your roof, you can go that whole span, and you can put as many doors, windows in it as you would like.
Right, but they're doing 2-story houses now, bro.
Yeah, well, you would still do truss frame, and you could do huge spans of just hempcrete. Like there's more than just those specific houses. There's hemp blocks that are like building blocks. They're like Legos.
Yes.
They're made out of hempcrete, ready to go, and then you just stack them.
Right.
Like there's all different kinds of ways to use this technology. It's
Right.
literally a whole
And
industry getting ready to blow up.
And like you said, I do believe it would put the logging industry, which it's a deadly industry anyway,
Yeah.
to be in, it'd take that away. And I think it'd make a whole lot of loggers, more safe.
well, here's the thing. It won't put the logging industry completely 100% out of business, because there's not very many companies right now 3D printing homes for people to move into. There is a lot, but there's not as many as you think. Okay, so that industry is not really taking off full force like we would like to see it, because the regulations and rules in this country for hemp is outdated, needs to be redefined. If certain states want to make it illegal in their states, I think they should have that right to do that, but don't make it illegal for the rest of the country. Can hemp take wood paper out of business? Yes, it would within the first 5 years.
Dow,
Would it?
Mead.
But if you take hemp paper
Shell.
and just that alone, with just that alone, okay, that would knock out probably maybe probably a fourth or less of the logging industry. Okay. It would take more uses of hemp to completely wipe out the logging industry across the whole world.
Do you know how green hemp is for that?
And honestly, who is this? Ray?
Ray.
I think honestly that I don't know like for a fact, but I think marijuana turns the cycle of O2 better than trees do.
Ray, I think if you look up Bill Gates connection, I think somewhere if you research Bill Gates, you're going to find he has connections with the people who are thought to have put up the Georgia Guidestones. And the Georgia Guidestones' very first step was to reduce the population to a specific amount before we do all these other utopian things.
And
So
honestly,
I
think it
guarantee you,
needs
you're going to
to be
find a connection to
get
Bill Gates
like
to those people.
I think all. All right. So when does hemp turn into marijuana?
When the
Well, that's the
THC is above 0.4 or something like that, or 0.04,
0.3. They're saying 0.03 in my
0.03, it's really
0.03.
low, but
Yeah.
that's actually nice that hemp doesn't have any. So like
You're
there's
wrong.
no measurable. Most
It
hemp,
does no hemp
like most of
has
the commercial hemp that
0.03.
for industrial hemp
That's
doesn't have
not
any
what's in the
THC.
regulation anymore.
Huh?
That's not what's in the regulation. They have defined the difference between hemp and marijuana.
Hmm.
You know what the difference
Tell us.
is?
Tell us.
A
Stop being
flame.
a what?
A flame.
A flame. Fire. A flame.
What?
What are
Yes.
you talking about?
So
You're high.
no, for real. So if you get pulled over and you have a raw bud in your car, that is hemp. But if you have like ash or like stuff that's
Oh, if you burn it?
if it's burnt, then it's marijuana.
Okay, well then go buy yourself a volcano.
Yeah, exactly.
And then then nothing's marijuana.
Hey, you know what?
Like,
Hey,
you see my
hey,
volcano there, motherfucker?
hey,
Do you see
under
anything
that
burnt?
logic, hold on. I got you. Under that logic, the ash from this cigarette
Right? Oh
is
wow.
marijuana.
Marijuana. If this was marijuana, it wouldn't be choking me.
So no. They're
My
talking
throat.
about like in joints. Okay,
Right, I
the
get
people
it.
that don't
I
throw
think
the joint roach
Well, that's
out and
horseshit
save
because
it,
smoking
that
hold on.
would
CBD.
be marijuana.
Okay, hold
That's
on.
horseshit because smoking CBD doesn't even give you the psychoactive effects that they demonized to make people think it was okay to make this shit illegal to begin with. So, like, there's CBD cigarettes out there for people who want to quit smoking. You don't get high. And once you start smoking them to the point where you've established a CBD baseline on your entire cannabinoid system, you actually flow pretty smoothly throughout your
Right.
day. So, like, it's a
Yeah,
beneficial
you're right there.
replacement.
That's right, Ray. You are right.
What's that? What am I?
Ray said, and I'll quote. I'm Ray. Ray said,
No, you're not. You're
what
Dave.
I'm saying is he owns more land than anyone.
Yep. More
If they
farmland, too.
were going to legalize it fully and do something with it, he can make more money than anybody off of hemp.
He
Yes.
could, except for that's the whole problem, though, Ray. If it was legal and there was slim regulations on it because people understood how unvolatile it is to your system, like, contrary, it's beneficial, you wouldn't buy it off of Bill Gates. You would grow it in your own backyard, on your own back acre if you have it. Like, and you would buy it. And if you didn't have that, if you lived in an apartment, you'd buy it from your friends who have a farm. Like, you wouldn't go to Bill Gates. So he doesn't want that. He wants something he can control, just like Rockefeller
Right.
wanted something they could control. Like, Bill Gates is like that. He likes to he reminds
Same
me of
with
the Nestle
Carnegie.
guy. The
Same with
Nestle guy with
Carnegie with
water,
steel.
right?
Same
Why
with
you gotta be
Carnegie.
shitting on all the
A
people who
ton
came
of
from
people
Pittsburgh?
should be right there with him, Ray.
Hey, listen. I don't care that they all came from Pittsburgh.
I do, man. I got a lot of
You
guilt
do.
over it, man. The
Okay,
Rockefellers,
why?
the Carnegies, Dow Mead Corporation, all of
Oh,
them come from my branch
here
of the
we go.
country, and I'm ashamed.
Cry me a river. Here,
Cry me
Dan,
a river.
cry a river, build
Live
a
it.
bridge, and get the fuck over it. How
Yeah,
about
I'm
that?
gonna build a bridge to the dimension where hemp was never made illegal, and the farmer fucking fuels my car. That's where I'm gonna build a bridge to.
We
Fucking
can only
portal.
wish that one day we could make farmers rich as hell by giving them the $5 to fill the tank.
Right? Fuck yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's another reality where that's already
Yeah.
existence, man. Man in a high castle, but it's hemp.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap things up. We're gonna get out of here. Dan, thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
Glad
for
you
letting
were
me
here
plug
for our first
Hempspiracy.
show. Yeah. Thanks for coming to our show. And one question before we go, okay? One question. Do you think it should be federally legal? Yes or no?
Federally.
Federally legal. Do you think hemp should be federally legal and not be regulated by the government? Moken, yes or no?
It should be legal, yes.
Dan,
You already know my opinion.
how long do you guys
The federal
think
government's only concern should be with regulating the exchange of my money and the protection of my rights. So no.
Right. And do you how long do you think it's going to take before they come to their senses? Hey, thanks Unchained, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for showing up.
I don't think they're going to come to their senses. I think they already had their senses about it. I think they're deliberately holding us down.
Deliberately. Okay. Well, thanks again for everybody for showing up. And my opinion is it's going to take a few more years. Free the weed. Yes, Frogzilla.
Yes,
we agree.
Free the weed.
Free the
Yes,
weed.
Hey,
for
guys.
real. I agree.
Hey, we need to vote for Prop 420 to legalize marijuana.
Yes.
Down the Rabbit Hole says yes. So it's got to be the truth.
Yeah,
So-
and I mean Texas needs to redefine and
I just
Make
want to
it-
see here. Yes.
make it legal for the veterans at least.
The way the atmosphere is right now, I don't see it happening in Trump's term. But anyway, everybody, thanks for showing up. Check out Ray's Moto Life, Unchained, Down the Rabbit Hole. You can check out these guys. Check out golly, Frogzilla, go to hers. These guys are the most awesome people. You could ever run across. So check out their shows. Come back for next week. Aliens.
Subscribe tonight.
Yeah. Dan. Next week, aliens.
Aliens.
What
about Nephilim?
What is that?
Anunnaki? We going to include those in there?
We're talking about
you want-
aliens. Little green men with big bug eyes.
Right.
Next
Anunnaki.
week. Next week. Shut up, Dan. You always do this to me, dude.
Dude, if 1,000 people watch this video, 600 of them are going to know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Okay. That's awesome.
Those
But-
are aliens.
7 p.m. next Monday, Central. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, and the other side of the country, y'all should figure it out. Anywho,
Hope I can make it, y'all.
I'm Dave. That's Smoking the Bowl. That's Only the Lonely. This is Gen X Unchained, and we're out of here. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Night.